I'm telling you this because it's a secret that's freezing me from the inside, a truth I can't confess to anyone who knows my name. Call me Anna, a 42-year-old woman fading in a life that's as cold as the Colorado winters. I live in a mountain town where the peaks loom like silent judges and the snow buries everything, including me. This house, with its vaulted ceilings and windows framing the Rockies, is a lie, a polished shell, hiding a marriage that's been dead for years. I'm not proud of what I've done, what I'm still doing, but I need to let it out before it buries me alive. This is my story, and it's raw, it's wrong, and it's the only thing keeping me warm. 6 years ago, I married Daniel. He was a vision then, confident, wealthy, with a smile that promised the world. We'd hike the trails at dawn, his hand steady in mine, dreaming of a life carved from these mountains. He built this house, a monument to his success, with stone fireplaces and views that steal your breath. But dreams don't last. Daniel's a ghost now, always gone, chasing contracts in Denver, New York, places I can't follow. His work is his love, not me. At 42, I'm invisible, wandering these halls, counting the snowflakes until he remembers I'm here. I used to be alive. I'd ski the slopes, my laughter echoing through the pines, or sit in the town's craft brewery, sketching the faces around me, my hands stained with charcoal. Now, I'm hollow, a shadow in my own home, my days blending into nights spent alone with a glass of whiskey. The fire's glow my only company. The silence is a weight pressing against my chest, a reminder that I'm fading. I tell myself this is marriage, this is life, but it's a lie. I'm starving for touch, for meaning, for someone to see the woman I used to be before she froze over. Daniel's absence isn't just physical. When he's home, he's distant, his eyes skimming past me, his voice clipped, like I'm an obligation. Last month, he came back from a trip, his briefcase thudding, his face carved with stress. I stood in the kitchen pouring coffee, hoping for a glance, a word. "Rough week?" I asked, my voice soft, pleading. He grunted, already scrolling his phone, the screen's glow more alive than me. I lingered, the mug burning my hands, and felt the ache of being unseen. It's been years since he touched me, since his hands warmed my skin, since his eyes held mine with anything but indifference. I'm 42, and I'm a stranger in my own life. Then Ethan came home. He's Daniel's son from his first marriage, 24, just back from college. I hadn't seen him since he was a quiet teen, avoiding me at holiday dinners, his hoodie a shield. But when he walked through the door 2 weeks ago, everything shifted. Ethan's not a boy anymore. He's tall, lean, with sharp cheekbones and eyes like the forest at dusk, deep and untamed, pulling you in. His dark hair curls at the nape of his neck, and his voice, low and warm, carries a quiet intensity, like the crackle of a fire before it roars. When he hugged me hello, his arms wrapped around me, strong and steady, his breath grazing my ear, and a spark shot through me, sharp and dangerous. I pulled away, my face flushed, my hands trembling, my heart racing. It was just a hug, I told myself, nothing more. He's my stepson, Daniel's son, a kid I watched grow up. But it wasn't just a hug. His hands lingered on my back, warm and deliberate, and his scent, pine and smoke, like the mountains after a storm, clung to me, haunting me. I avoided him, busying myself with chores, pretending he was just visiting. But Ethan's everywhere, his presence a pulse in this house. He lounges by the fire, watching college football, his laugh warming the rooms. He skis the backcountry, his jacket clinging to his frame, snow dusting his hair, and I look away. but not fast enough. Every glance we share, across the kitchen, in the hall, carries a charge, a heat that makes my skin hum, my breath catch. I tell myself I'm imagining it, that loneliness is twisting my mind. But then there's his smile, slow and knowing, like he sees the parts of me I hide. Last week I spilled coffee in the kitchen, the mug shattering, and Ethan was there, kneeling beside me, his hand brushing mine as we cleaned. His fingers stayed, too warm, too long, and I froze, my pulse racing, the air thick with something unspoken. "Careful," he said, his voice a low rumble, his eyes holding mine, dark and piercing, like he knew the fire he was stoking. I mumbled an excuse and fled, my cheeks burning, my body alive in a way it hasn't been in years. Daniel planned a retreat to our lodge, a half-hearted attempt to reconnect. It's a cozy place in the mountains, all pine and flannel, with snow piling high and a hot tub steaming under the stars. I knew Daniel wouldn't stay. Work always wins. So it was just me and Ethan driving up the winding roads, the radio buzzing with college football scores, the windows fogging with the chill. Ethan drove, one hand on the wheel, his other arm resting on the console, his profile sharp against the snowy dusk. I watched him, too long, memorizing the curve of his jaw, the way his fingers tapped the wheel, and my thoughts wandered. His hands on me, his breath against my skin, his voice whispering my name. "Anna," he said, snapping me back, his eyes flicking to mine. "You okay?" His voice was warm, too warm, and I nodded, my throat tight, my face hot. "Just cold," I lied, but his smile said he saw through me. We stopped at a gas station and he grabbed hot cocoa, tossing me a cup with a grin that made my stomach flip. When he handed it to me, his fingers grazed my wrist, a touch so brief but so electric I gasped, soft enough he didn't hear. Or maybe he did. His eyes lingered, dark and searching, and I turned away, my heart pounding, my body betraying me with a heat I couldn't ignore. The lodge was quiet when we arrived, the snow muffling the world, the air heavy with possibility. Ethan carried our bags, his muscles flexing under his jacket, and I followed, my eyes tracing the lines of his back, my thoughts a storm of want and shame. We unpacked groceries, whiskey, bread, stew from the local diner, and our hands brushed once, twice, each touch a spark that made my skin hum. "You seem different here," he said, his voice low, standing too close as we put away the whiskey. "Less alone." His eyes were on me, intense, like he saw through every wall I'd built. I laughed, nervous, and stepped back, but my body ached to stay, to lean into him, to feel that heat again. Daniel called that night, his voice sharp, saying he'd be gone a few days. "Look after Ethan," he said, like I was a caretaker, not a woman unraveling. I hung up, my hands shaking, and found Ethan by the fire, the flames painting his skin in gold. "Everything okay?" he asked, turning, his eyes catching mine, and I felt it again. That spark, that pull, thawing the ice inside me. "Fine," I said, but my voice was weak, and he stepped closer, his scent wrapping around me, pine and smoke, drawing me in. I fled to my room, my heart racing, my body alive with a need I couldn't name. Alone, I pressed my hands to my face, trying to silence the truth. Ethan's eyes, his touch, his voice, they were waking something in me, something dangerous, something I wanted more than I should. Why did his presence thaw the ice inside me when everything else was freezing me out? I'm burning, and I don't know how to stop. That first day at the lodge, Ethan's eyes, his voice, the way his touch lingered, they sank into me, A spark in the frost I couldn't smother. I told myself I could resist, that I was stronger than this, but every thought of him, his smile, his scent, the way he said my name stoked a fire I'd buried for years. The lodge is too quiet, the snow too thick, and Ethan's presence is everywhere. A heat that seeps into my bones, melting the walls I've built. I'm 42, his stepmother, and I'm losing myself to a desire that's as dangerous as it is alive, a desire that's thawing me from the inside out. That night, I couldn't sleep. The lodge was silent, the snow piling high outside, muffling the world, pressing against the windows like a secret kept too long. Ethan had gone to bed, or so I thought, his door closed, the hallway dark. I wandered to the deck, my bare feet cold on the wood, my mind a storm of guilt and need. The hot tub steamed under the stars, its hum a low, inviting pulse, and I needed to escape, to feel something other than this torment, something to remind me I was still a woman, still alive beneath the ice. I slipped into my robe, the silk cool against my skin, and stepped outside, the snowflakes kissing my face, melting instantly. The hot tub steam curled into the night, a siren's call, and I shed my robe, letting it fall to the deck, my body bare to the cold before I sank into the water. The heat was immediate, enveloping me, loosening the knots in my chest, and I sighed, my breath mingling with the steam, my skin flushing under the starlight. I closed my eyes, the hum of the jets a rhythm against my body, and I let myself unravel, slow at first, savoring the way the water stirred me, waking every nerve. My hands moved, guided by a need I'd buried, tracing paths across my skin, each touch a spark in the frost, building a heat that made my breath hitch, my pulse race. The water pulsed, a heartbeat matching my own, and I arched, my body trembling, chasing a release that felt like freedom. The steam wrapped around me, the stars above a silent witness, and I was no longer Anna, the ghost of this marriage. I was a woman, raw and alive, my lips parting, a soft moan escaping as the heat crashed through me, wave after wave, until I was drowning in it, my body humming, my mind blank with pleasure. A creak on the deck snapped my eyes open. Ethan stood there, his silhouette sharp against the snowy night, his eyes wide, locked on me. My heart slammed against my ribs, a scream caught in my throat, and I sank lower, the water barely hiding me, my face burning, my body still tingling with the echo of release. He'd seen me, exposed, vulnerable, my skin flushed, my breath ragged, caught in a moment meant for no one else. His gaze burned, dark and untamed, like a fire ready to roar, and I saw it, hunger, raw and unfiltered, a mirror to the need I'd been chasing. Time stopped, the steam curling between us, the snow falling silent, mocking my shame. My hand shook, clutching the edge of the tub, my chest tight with humiliation. But beneath it, a reckless heat pulsed, hotter than the water around me. Ethan's lips parted, his breath uneven, and I swear I saw his hands clench, like he was fighting the urge to step closer. His eyes roamed, slow and deliberate, tracing the curve of my shoulder, the flush of my skin, and I felt it like a touch, a caress that set me ablaze. I was mortified, laid bare, but I was also something else, desired, seen, a woman he couldn't look away from. I didn't know you were out here, he stammered, his voice thick, heavy with something unspoken, something that made my stomach twist with want. But he didn't move, not at first. His gaze held mine, and in that moment, I wasn't just a woman caught in disgrace. I was something he craved, something dangerous, something that made his breath catch and his hands tremble. The snow fell, a flake landing on his cheek, melting instantly, and I flinched, the sight breaking the spell. "Please go," I whispered, my voice trembling, but it lacked conviction, weak with the truth I couldn't admit. Ethan blinked, like waking from a trance, and stepped back, his hand gripping the railing, his knuckles white. The door clicked shut, and I was alone again, the steam rising, the water lapping at my skin, a witness to my shame. I sank deeper, my body still humming, my mind a chaos of guilt and desire. The stars above were merciless, exposing every truth I'd tried to hide. I pressed my hands to my face, trying to silence the memory. Ethan's silhouette, his gaze, the way his voice broke when he spoke. My body responded, traitor that it was, a heat pooling low, a need I couldn't ignore. I imagined him standing there still, watching, wanting, and the thought made me shiver, made me ache for something I shouldn't. I stood, my legs unsteady, and wrapped my robe around me, the silk a poor shield against the fire inside. I stumbled inside, the lodge's warmth a contrast to the cold in my chest. The fire was dying, its embers glowing, but the heat in me burned brighter, fed by Ethan's eyes, his presence, the way he'd looked at me like I was more than Daniel's wife, more than a shadow. I tried to pray, to beg for strength, but the words wouldn't come. All I could see was him. All I could feel was the pull, the ember that threatened to consume me. I was unraveling, and I didn't know if I wanted to stop. Why did his eyes make me want to burn, to let the fire take us both, no matter what it cost? I'm slipping, and the fall feels like freedom. That night in the hot tub, when Ethan saw me bare, trembling, lost in my own heat, everything changed. His eyes, dark and ravenous, burned into me, a spark that set my world ablaze. I spent the next day hiding, avoiding him, pretending I could douse the fire he'd lit. But this lodge is too small, the snow too thick, and Ethan's presence is a pulse I can't escape. His voice, his scent, the way he moves, they haunt me, stoking a desire I shouldn't feel, a desire that's thawing the ice I've lived in for years. I'm 42, his stepmother, and I'm teetering on the edge of something I can't come back from, something that's warming me from the inside out. A blizzard rolled in that evening, a beast howling down the mountains, burying the lodge in snow that piled high against the windows. The wind screamed, shaking the walls, and the power flickered, plunging us into a darkness that felt alive, heavy with secrets. I stood in the kitchen, gripping the counter, my heart pounding as the storm roared, mirroring the chaos inside me. Ethan was somewhere in the lodge, and the thought of him, his silhouette in the starlight, his breath uneven, made my skin hum, my body ache with a need I couldn't silence. I told myself to stay away, to lock myself in my room, but my feet wouldn't move, drawn to him like a flame in the frost. I found him in the living room, stoking the fire, the flames casting shadows that danced across his face, painting him in gold and amber. He looked up, his eyes meeting mine, and the air shifted thick with everything we hadn't said. "Storm's brutal," he said, his voice low, steady, but there was a tremor in it, like he was holding something back. I nodded, my throat tight, and moved to the couch, my hands trembling as I poured whiskey from the bottle on the table. The lodge creaked, the blizzard's howl a pulse that matched my own, and I offered him a glass, my fingers brushing his as he took it. The touch was a spark, a jolt that shot through me, and I saw his breath catch, his eyes darkening like he felt it too. We sat, the fire crackling, the whiskey warm in my hand, but it was Ethan who intoxicated me. His flannel shirt was unbuttoned, revealing the hard lines of his chest, and I looked away, my face hot, my thoughts spiraling, his hands on me, his lips against my skin, his voice whispering my name in the dark. "You okay, Anna?" he asked, leaning closer, his knee brushing mine, and the sound of my name in his mouth was a caress, soft and dangerous. "Fine," I lied, but my voice was weak, and his smile, slow and knowing, said he saw through me. The whiskey loosened something, and we talked, at first about nothing, the blizzard, the ski slopes we'd passed, the college football game we'd heard on the radio before the storm. But the words turned raw, the firelight stripping away our pretense. "You seem lonely," he said, his eyes searching mine, and the truth in his words cut me open. "Daniel's never here," I said, my voice breaking, the whiskey making me reckless. "This house, this life, it's a tomb. I'm fading, Ethan, and no one notices." Tears stung my eyes, and I hated how vulnerable I felt, but the dark made it easier to confess, the blizzard drowning out my shame. He leaned closer, his hand resting on the couch, inches from mine, and I felt the heat of him, a pull I couldn't resist. "I notice you," he said, his voice a low growl, like the wind outside, and it sent shivers down my spine. "Every day, Anna, I see you, and it's tearing me apart." His words were a flame, melting my defenses, and I froze, my breath hitching, my body alive with a need I'd buried for years. His hand moved, brushing mine, his fingers warm, deliberate, and I didn't pull away. I couldn't. The touch was a tide, pulling me under, and I let it, my fingers curling around his, my skin humming where we met. The fire flickered, casting shadows that danced across his face, and I don't know how we ended up so close, our knees pressed together, our hands entwined, the air thick with want. His breath was uneven, his eyes locked on mine, and I felt drunk, not on whiskey but on him, on the way he looked at me like I was everything he'd ever craved. "Anna," he murmured, my name a plea, and I leaned in, drawn to the heat of him, the scent of him, pine and smoke, like the mountains after a storm. Our faces were inches apart, his lips so close I could feel their warmth, and my body trembled, aching for him, for the release of giving in. I imagined it, his lips on mine, his hands sliding up my arms, pulling me against him, the blizzard swallowing our sins. My pulse raced, my skin flushed, and I wanted it, wanted him, more than I'd ever wanted anything. But the wind howled, a reminder of the world outside, and I pulled back, gasping, my hand slipping from his. "We can't," I whispered, but my voice was weak, and my body screamed otherwise, still tingling where he'd touched me. Ethan's eyes burned, unyielding, his breath ragged. "I know," he said, but there was no regret in his voice, only certainty, like he'd wait forever for me to break. I stood, my legs unsteady, and stumbled to the window, the snow swirling outside, blurring the world. The fire flickered, its light fading, but the heat inside me burned brighter, fed by Ethan's touch, his words, the way he'd looked at me like I was his. I pressed my hands to the glass, trying to cool the fire in my veins, but it was useless. I was 42, his stepmother, and I'd let him touch me, let him see me, let him pull me toward a line I couldn't uncross. I closed my eyes, and all I could see was him, his hands, his eyes, the way he'd said my name, and my body responded, a heat pooling low, a need I couldn't ignore. I turned, and he was still there, watching me, his silhouette sharp against the firelight. "Ethan," I said, my voice trembling, and he stood, stepping closer, his eyes never leaving mine. The blizzard roared, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside me, a tide of want and guilt crashing together. I wanted to run, to hide, but my feet wouldn't move, drawn to him, to the heat of him, the promise in his gaze. "Anna," he said, and it was a question, a challenge, a prayer, and I felt it everywhere, a pulse that matched my own. I shook my head, backing away, my heart pounding, my body alive with a desire I couldn't silence. How do you stop when every touch feels like fate, when it's the only thing keeping you from freezing? I'm falling, and I don't want to be saved. After that night by the fire, Ethan's hand in mine, our breaths mingling in the blizzard's glow, I couldn't pretend anymore. His touch, his voice, the way he saw me, they were a flame I couldn't douse, burning through every lie I'd told myself. I spent the next day avoiding him, sweeping the lodge, cooking, anything to keep my hands from reaching for him. But Ethan was everywhere, his laugh echoing from the deck, his scent lingering in the halls, his eyes catching mine across the room, dark and unyielding, pulling me under. I'm 42, his stepmother, and I'm lost, helpless against a desire that's cracking the ice I've lived in for years. The morning was crisp, the blizzard gone, leaving a world blanketed in snow, the mountains gleaming under a sky too bright. I tried to focus, to be normal, but every moment was charged, the air crackling with what we hadn't said. Ethan was outside, shoveling the path, his jacket open, sweat glistening on his skin, and I watched from the window. Too long, my hands trembling, my thoughts spiraling, his hands on me, his lips against my neck, his body pressed to mine. I turned away, my face hot, my pulse racing, but the image stayed, a spark I couldn't extinguish. That night, I couldn't stay inside. The lodge was too small, Ethan's presence too big, and I needed air, needed to breathe. I slipped into my coat and stepped into the woods, the snow crunching under my boots, the pines whispering secrets under the stars. The air was cold, biting my skin, but it did nothing to calm the heat inside me, the ache that had been growing since Ethan's eyes first burned into mine. I leaned against a tree, my hands gripping the bark, trying to anchor myself, but my body was a traitor, humming with need, with want, with him. I heard his footsteps before I saw him, soft in the snow, deliberate. "Anna," he said, his voice low, like the wind through the pines, and I froze, my heart slamming against my ribs. I didn't turn, but I felt him, his presence filling the night, wrapping around me like a flame. "We need to talk," he said, closer now, his breath warm against my ear, and the sound of my name in his mouth was a spark, a fire that set me ablaze. I turned, and there he was, inches away, his eyes dark and searching, burning with a hunger that mirrored my own. "About what?" I whispered, but I knew, and my voice trembled, betraying me. The stars above were merciless, exposing every truth I'd tried to hide. "About this," he said, stepping closer, his body so close I could feel its heat, its pull. "About what's happening. You feel it too, don't you?" His words were a blade, cutting through my defenses, and I couldn't lie, not to him, not anymore. The pines whispered, the snow a witness to my surrender, and I nodded, my throat tight, my body alive with a need I couldn't silence. "I'm so empty," I said, my voice breaking, tears stinging my eyes. "Daniel doesn't see me. This life, it's killing me, Ethan. I'm fading and I can't stop it." The confession spilled out, raw and reckless, and I hated how exposed I felt. But Ethan's gaze softened, his eyes never leaving mine. "You're not fading," he said, his voice a low growl that sent shivers through me. "I see you, Anna, every curve, every breath, every piece of you, and it's driving me insane." His hand reached for mine, his fingers brushing my wrist, and it was like lightning, a jolt that shot through me, igniting every nerve. I don't know who moved first. Maybe it was me, maybe him, but suddenly his lips were on mine, fierce and desperate, a flame roaring through the frost, consuming me whole. His kiss was fire, tasting of whiskey and need, and I melted into him, my hand sliding up his chest, feeling the hard rhythm of his heart under my palms. He pulled me closer, his arms strong, his body pressed to mine, and I was burning, lost in the heat of him, the rush of him, the way his lips moved, hungry and relentless. My fingers tangled in his hair, my body arching against his, and I moaned, soft and helpless, the sound swallowed by the pine's whisper. His hands roamed, tracing the curve of my back, the dip of my waist, each touch a spark, igniting my skin. And I wanted more, needed him. The snow fell around us, the stars spinning above, and I was alive, wanted, seen for the first time in years. But the truth clawed at me, sharp and cold, and I pulled away, gasping, my hands trembling against his chest. "We can't," I choked out, but my body screamed otherwise, still tingling where his lips had been, where his hands had burned. Ethan's eyes were dark, unyielding, his breath ragged, his hands still on me, like he couldn't let go. "I don't care," he said, his voice rough, certain, and I believed him, believed he'd burn the world down for me. We stood there, inches apart, the pines whisper a mirror to the storm inside me, guilt and desire at war. My lips still tasted of him, my skin still hummed where he'd touched me, and I knew I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I turned, my hands gripping the tree, trying to anchor myself, but Ethan stepped closer, his breath warm against my neck, his presence a tide I couldn't escape. "Anna," he whispered, and it was a promise, a plea, a prayer, and I felt it everywhere, a pulse that matched my own. I fled to my room, my heart pounding, my body alive but my mind screaming. I locked the door, but it was useless. Ethan was inside me now, his kiss a spark, his touch a fire I couldn't put out. I pressed my hands to my face, trying to silence the truth. I wanted him, more than I'd ever wanted anything, and it was wrong, forbidden, a sin I couldn't wash away. But his lips, his hands, his eyes, they were the only things keeping me alive, the only things that made me feel like Anna again. I lay in the dark, my body trembling, my thoughts a storm of guilt and need, and I knew I was lost. What do you do when you've tasted the forbidden? When the only thing you want is the one thing you can never have? I'm unraveling, caught in a storm I can't outrun, and I'm not sure I want to. That kiss with Ethan, his lips fierce and consuming, shattered every wall I'd built, leaving me raw, exposed, burning. Days later, I still feel him, his hands searing my skin, his breath hot against my neck, his eyes stripping me bare. I've tried to pull back, to bury this desire, but it's alive inside me, a fire that flares with every glance, every word. This lodge, with its pine walls and snow-packed windows, is a cage, trapping me with Ethan and a need I can't silence. I'm 42, his stepmother, and I'm teetering on the edge of ruin, a ruin that feels like salvation. The morning after our kiss, I woke with his taste on my lips, my body humming, my mind a blizzard of guilt and want. I avoided him, polishing silverware, rearranging shelves, anything to keep my hands from reaching for him. But Ethan's presence is relentless, filling every corner of this place. He'd sit by the fire, reading, his shirt unbuttoned, the flames catching the planes of his chest, and I'd watch from the doorway, my fingers trembling, my thoughts spiraling, his hands sliding under my clothes, his lips tracing paths they shouldn't. I'd turn away, my face flushed, but the ache stayed, a pulse low and insistent, begging for release. Then I saw her, Rachel, the bartender from the ski lodge down the road, standing in the snow, her eyes sharp, watching our lodge like she knew something. My stomach dropped, a cold dread slicing through the heat of my desire. She's a local, all gossip and sharp smiles, the kind of woman who collects secrets like trophies. I caught her staring twice more, her gaze lingering on the windows, and each time my heart raced, my mind conjuring images of her whispering, pointing, exposing us. I told Ethan, my voice shaking, and his face tightened, his jaw clenching. "She's friends with Lauren," he said, his voice low, urgent. "My ex. Lauren's been texting me, weird stuff, like she knows something." He showed me his phone, the screen glowing with her words. "You can't hide what you're doing." Ah, my blood ran cold, the weight of our secret pressing down, but even fear couldn't douse the fire Ethan lit in me. That night I couldn't stay away. The lodge was suffocating, Ethan's scent, pine and smoke, lingering in every room, pulling me toward him. I slipped into the living room, the fire low, its embers glowing like the heat inside me. Ethan was there, sprawled on the couch, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his eyes dark and restless. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, his voice a low rumble, and I nodded, my throat tight, my body alive with the sound of him, my skin prickling with need. I sat beside him too close, the air crackling, and poured myself a drink, my hands trembling, the whiskey's burn a poor match for the fire he stoked. "We shouldn't be doing this," I whispered, but my body leaned toward him, drawn to the heat of him, the promise in his gaze. "I don't want to stop," he said, his voice a growl that sent shivers through me, and he reached for me, his fingers brushing my arm, warm and deliberate. The touch was a spark, igniting a fire that roared through me, and I gasped, my breath ragged, my skin humming where he touched me. His hand slid up, cupping my face, his thumb tracing my jaw, and I melted, my hands finding his chest, feeling the hard rhythm of his heart under my palms. We were inches apart, the fire's glow painting us in gold, the snow outside a silent witness. His lips hovered near mine, his breath hot and uneven, and I wanted it, wanted him, wanted to let the fire consume us. My fingers curled into his shirt, pulling him closer, and he groaned, a sound that sent a rush of heat through me, pooling low, making me ache. "Anna," he murmured, my name a plea, and I leaned in, our lips brushing, not quite a kiss, but a promise, a spark that threatened to burn us down. My body arched against his, my skin flushed, and I imagined it, his hands roaming, his lips claiming, the couch beneath us as we gave in, the blizzard drowning our sins. But a creak at the window snapped us apart, a shadow moving in the snow. My heart stopped, panic flooding me, and I stumbled back, my hands trembling. Ethan's eyes darted to the window, his face pale, his breath ragged. We froze, the fire crackling, and then I saw it, a note slipped under the door, its edges dusted with snow. I grabbed it, my fingers shaking, and unfolded it, the scrawled words like a blade. "I see you." Jumped him, my blood turned to ice, my mind racing. Rachel, Lauren, someone else? Ethan's hand clenched, his eyes scanning the dark, and he whispered, "Lauren." But it could have been anyone. Anyone who'd seen us, who'd felt the heat between us. The fire of moments ago was gone, replaced by a dread that choked me. I looked at Ethan, his face sharp in the firelight, his hands still trembling where they'd held me, and I knew we were in too deep. Someone knew, someone was watching, and our secret was slipping away, a storm we couldn't outrun. I clutched the note, my heart pounding, my body still humming with the echo of his touch, and I felt the weight of it all, guilt, desire, fear, crashing over me. I wanted to run, to hide, but Ethan's eyes held me, dark and unyielding, promising more, promising everything. Who knows our secret, and how much did they see? And why, even now, do I want to pull him back, to let the fire take us, no matter the cost? I'm trapped, and the truth is closing in like an avalanche. That note under the door, those words. I see you. They're a chain around my heart, tightening with every breath. Ethan's touch, his lips so close, his hands burning my skin. It's all I can think about, even as fear claws at me, threatening to bury us. I've tried to stop, to pull back, to be the woman I'm supposed to be, but Ethan's inside me now. A fire I can't extinguish, a storm I can't escape. I'm 42, his stepmother, and I've crossed lines I can't uncross, lines that are pulling me under, drowning me in desire and dread. The day after the note, I was a wreck, my hands shaking, my mind replaying Ethan's touch, the shadow at the window. I stayed inside, cleaning the lodge, scrubbing counters, anything to keep from facing him. But Ethan was everywhere, his presence a pulse in this house, his eyes catching mine across the room, dark and hungry, promising things I shouldn't want. He'd brush past me in the hall, his arm grazing mine, and I'd freeze, my skin humming, my body aching for more. I'd turn away, my face hot, but the images stayed, his hands sliding under my shirt, his lips on my throat, his body pressing me against the wall, the world fading away. Then Daniel came back. He walked through the door, his boots thudding, his voice clipped, like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. He was different, too attentive, his eyes lingering on me, asking questions. How was the lodge? What did we do? Why was I so quiet? His sudden interest was unnerving, a spotlight I couldn't escape, and I played the part, smiling, setting the table, but my hands trembled, my heart racing every time Ethan was near. At dinner, Ethan sat across from me, his foot brushing mine under the table, a deliberate touch that sent a jolt through me, and I choked on my stew, my face flushing, Daniel's eyes narrowing like he sensed something. I tried to act normal, but normal was gone. Ethan's gaze was a weight, heavy with want, and every time our eyes met, I felt it. The heat of his hands, the promise of his lips, the storm pulling us together. I cleared the table, my hands shaking, and Ethan followed, his presence a shadow behind me. "Anna," he whispered, too close, his breath warm against my ear, and I shivered, my body responding, a heat pooling low, making me ache. "Not now," I hissed, but my voice was weak, and his hand brushed my waist, a touch so brief but so electric I gasped, the plates clattering in my hands. Daniel called from the dining room, and I fled, my heart pounding, my body alive with a need I couldn't silence. That evening the doorbell rang, a sharp sound that cut through the haze. I opened the door, and there was Lauren, Ethan's ex, her smirk cold and venomous, her eyes flicking between me and Ethan, who'd appeared behind me. "We need to talk," she said, her voice sharp, laced with knowing, and my stomach dropped, the note's words echoing in my mind. Daniel frowned, stepping forward, his face confused. "What's this about?" he asked, but Lauren just laughed, a sound that turned my blood to ice, cruel and piercing. "Ask them," she said, her gaze locked on mine, her lips curling. like she held our secret in her hands. Ethan's face was stone, but his hands were fists, his knuckles white, and I saw the fear in his eyes, the same fear choking me. Did she know about the kiss, the moments we'd stolen, the way we'd almost given in by the fire? Was it Rachel, feeding her secrets, spilling the truth? My mind raced, my heart slamming against my ribs, and I wanted to run, to hide. But there was nowhere to go. Lauren stepped closer, her eyes narrowing, and she leaned in, her voice low, meant for me alone. You think you're invisible, Anna, but I see you. I see everything. Oh, her words were a blade, twisting in my gut, and I froze, my breath caught, my body trembling with the weight of our sin. Daniel's eyes darted between us, his frown deepening, and I saw it, the suspicion, the crack in his trust. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice sharp, and I opened my mouth, but nothing came out, my throat tight, my mind a storm of panic and desire. Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady, but I heard the strain, the fear. "It's nothing, Dad," he said, but his eyes flicked to mine, a silent plea, and I felt the storm closing in, the truth ready to bury us. Lauren's smirk widened, her gaze cutting through me, and she turned to Daniel, her voice sweet, venomous. "Maybe you should ask your wife what she's been doing while you're gone." The room spun, the air thick with accusation, and I gripped the door frame, my legs unsteady, my body still humming with the echo of Ethan's touch. I wanted to scream, to deny it, but the truth was written on me, in the flush of my skin, the tremble of my hands, the way my eyes sought Ethan's, even now. Daniel's face hardened, his eyes searching mine, and I saw the doubt, the betrayal, taking root. Ethan stood silent, his hands clenched, his eyes burning with a mix of fear and defiance, and I knew we were exposed, our secret teetering on the edge of ruin. I stumbled back, my heart pounding, my mind racing with images, Ethan's lips on mine, his hands burning my skin, the note in the snow, Lauren's smirk. The lodge was a cage, the mountains outside a witness to our sins, and I felt the weight of it all, guilt, desire, fear, crashing over me. I wanted to run, to disappear, but Ethan's eyes held me, dark and unyielding, promising he'd fight for me, for us, no matter the cost. Lauren's laugh echoed, Daniel's suspicion grew, and I knew the truth was slipping away, a storm we couldn't outrun. Can we outrun the truth, or will it bury us, an avalanche we can't escape? I'm caught in a storm, and I don't know if I'll survive. Ethan's kiss, his touch, his eyes, they're a fire I can't escape, even as Lauren's words and Daniel's suspicion threaten to bury us. I'm 42, trapped in a life that's frozen me, and I've crossed lines that make me feel alive and damned in the same breath. Have you ever burned for something you shouldn't want? Ever felt a spark that could destroy everything? Tell me I'm not alone. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. Did I go too far? Or would you chase the same fire? Drop your theories below. What happens when the truth breaks? Stick around, because the storm's not over, and I'll tell you how it ends.